Welcome to this support video for the Lean Practitioner Level 2 Lean Practitioner Training. This Excel spreadsheet is available for free on the website. If you sign up on the website, you download a free copy of this. But for anybody that's involved in the training, it comes as part of the training as well. So you can download this. So let me go through what this actually is. This is the 10-step Lean Assessment. And this is the 2020 version. It's an upgraded version from the previous version. And basically what it does, it goes through the 10-step implementation model. Step 1 being strategy deployment, step 2 being value stream mapping, step 3 being workplace organization, step 4 being improve process flow, step 5 reduce process downtime, step 6 implement a pull system, step 7 balance the workload, step 8 develop standard work, step 9 advanced problem solving, and then step 10 is extend lean out into the supply chain. There's 3 parts to this actual assessment. There's the printable assessment, which you would print off and take with you out to the shop floor to do the assessment. So the way that I use this with clients is I would take this assessment, take some printed copies of the assessment, go to their facility, and then do the assessment and try to be as objective as I can when going through this assessment. Once I've done the printable assessment, then I go to the Excel assessment and I add the scores in. I'm going to talk about the scores a little bit more, but I just wanted to give you an overview before we got into the detail. And once the scores are in, then all the calculations are done automatically for you, and we'll talk more about that as we go through. The third part of it is an implementation plan to see what tasks are needed in order to move an organization into that next level. So let's start again with the printable assessment. So here we are at the first step, step 1, strategy deployment. 1.1 is strategy deployment. Leadership has developed a strategic plan and is using it to align continuous process improvement projects with business goals and objectives. So you're doing 2 things here. You're looking at that statement and you're asking yourself the question, is the organization doing this? Yes or no? There's no maybe, there's no could be, might be. It's either they are or they are not. If they are not doing it, then you immediately come and you put a 0 into the score cell here. If they are doing it, then you have to make an assessment of where they are on a scale from 1 through 5. Is it just, a meager kind of attempt to do it? Are they starting to move pretty well through with it at 50% of all CPI projects? Is everything they do part of the strategic plan and aligned with their business goals and objectives? So again, you have to do 2 things. You look at the criteria, you then ask the question, are they doing this, yes or no? So you're qualifying it. Then the next thing you do is you quantify it. If it's a no, it's an automatic 0. If it's a yes, then it's somewhere between 1 and 5 that you're going to score them at. Okay. And then what you do is you go through each of the criteria that's here for each of the 10 steps. So value stream mapping's got a couple of criteria that you're going to go through. Workplace organization, the same. So you're going to go through exactly the same thing and add a score. So you'll end up, and then you come back, and then what you do is you enter the scores into the column here, into the scores column on the Excel assessment, and then it does all the calculations for you. You don't have to do any thinking or about it. So all the numbers are in. Now here there are 2 numbers. There's the actual score that you scored them for the assessment, and then there's the potential score. So they're going to be compared with these 2 numbers. You can see that 5 is 1/5 of 25. So they're only scoring a 1 here, and that's good. I mean, it's a starting point. And what I would suggest you do is, rather than up their score, because if you think, oh well, maybe they're 60 or 65%, go to the 3. Downgrade them to the 3 rather than going up to the 4, because you're really not doing them any favors by doing that, and it adds a little bit more pressure to get them to move. So once all these scores, you can see every step has got the same thing, the total score and the potential score. You come down to the bottom And what you see here is the total score for this particular organization in this example is 49. Their rating percentage, which is taking the total numbers of the potential scores against the actual scores, is only 25.8%. So then you can actually look at this matrix. And this is just put together based on experience with doing this for many different organizations. And you can see that 25.8 comes at this score level 2, which is 20.1 to 40%. So it's beginning lean performance. So what you can see is there's some objective evidence to demonstrate lean systems are being developed and applied consistently. So these guys are just beginning on their journey. Now, if you look at what your goal is for this organization, is then to say, okay, they're a level 2, they're a beginning organization. What do I need to do now to get them to a level 3? And that's going to be one part of the plan. And I'll show you how we do that very shortly. Let me just explain this matrix down here. This is where all the potential scores and all the actual scores, and then it gives the percentage. So that's where this number comes from here. This 25% comes from these scores all being totaled up. So again, the magic is all done for you. The calculations are all done for you. Once you've done that, you can then go to this radar chart, which has got all 38 criteria here. And you can see how it scores on the radar chart. You can see the numbers 1, 2, 3 through 38 around the outside. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see this organization has got a lot of 1s and some 2s. So that's where their current status sits. There's also a bar chart that shows you exactly the same for people that prefer this kind of graphic. And then also for those that like to group by steps, you can see that there is a percentage chart which actually shows you how the percentages for each step works out. So they did 40% in step 4, they did 40% in step 9, but they did a lot of 20s here in a lot of these steps. So again, the idea is to see what we can do, go into the radar or to the bar chart. How can we move this organization, all these 1s to 2s and all these 2s to 3s? So that's what we're looking at. So again, back to this particular chart here, this matrix. This is a level 2 organization. Like I said, it's a 25.8. It sits in this particular level 2, beginner lean performance. So in order to help you with what to do to get that organization to become a level 3 is an implementation plan. And the implementation plan has already got some pre-existing or pre-entered tasks in it in order to show you what you need to do for each of these steps. Now, some of the functions are crossover, they happen in each step, and I'll explain that just shortly. So for instance, task 1 in strategy deployment is schedule training dates for senior leaders to complete strategy deployment training. So if you scheduled it, you would just put it as blue and schedule it for this date. So you just go and put blue in there, and that's scheduled for week 6. You can see there's 1 through 53. Yep, 53. And the reason I use week numbers is because 99.9% of organizations use week numbers for their scheduling and week numbers for their finances, etc. But you can replace these with dates if you choose to. I just think it's easier to keep the week numbers myself because it's more consistent. And then again, it would be the same. You'd put a blue, you'd schedule these activities could all happen at the same time. So for instance, schedule dates for senior leaders to develop their strategy deployment plan. I mean, you can do that at the same time. After you've done their training, you do their training, then they go straight into their plan. It could be a 2 or 3 day event where they do all this at one time. Then they actually create the vision statement and then the mission statement. And then they could even do the metrics, but that maybe needed to be done maybe a couple of weeks later once they've got all this figured out. And so they're going to look at setting up a steering committee, which is going to oversee the continuous improvement events. and the report outs for those particular events to make sure that we're doing the events for the right reasons, that they're valid events that are going to actually bring bottom line improvements to the organization. So again, you would change these status to blue because the status here is blue because it's been scheduled. Now once you start doing it, then you just change it to green. The status is now green because we've started actually doing this particular task. We're in the process of doing it, and we're having to complete it within week 6. Now you've got to remember, you can schedule out 2 or 3 weeks, right? This could be going for 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks. It depends on the organization. I'm just using this as an example. I would hope that the strategy deployment training wouldn't have to take 2 or 3 weeks, but it may do in some big organizations. So I think you get this. It's pretty intuitive what you're going to do. This status is so that you don't have to go down to week 53 to look at the status. You can see what the current status is. It's easy to update it, and you're looking at everything here in this left-hand columns. Okay, so just a quick overview again. We've got the printable assessment. You're going to take that to the shop floor with you, do the assessment. You're going to come back. You're going to put all the numbers into the score columns in the Excel assessment. Then you're going to see what the score is and what the percentage is. You're going to compare that with this matrix to see where the organization actually sits on this scale. And you can also then look at the percentages down here, or you can go to the radar chart or the bar chart or the percentage chart. This chart data here is where all the data gets pulled into and gets calculated and organized for these particular charts. The next thing you're going to do is go to the implementation plan and then actually start to identify tasks and activities and schedule them, and then start to track them as you go through them and start to perform them. So again, like I said, if you see that the organization is level 2, you're going to say, what am I going to do to get to a level 3? You're not trying to get to level 5. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to do it in incremental steps, small but continuous steps, right? And that's what continuous improvement is. Okay, there's also some basic instructions here, but I think the form is fairly intuitive. If you know how to use Excel, you should be able to use this fairly easily. The only other part here is that if something becomes inactive, then you can actually put it in as red because it's inactive or it's delayed or whatever. It gives you different color codes for different status of the tasks, and it's a good way to track it. And it's easy, quick, and easy and simple. And everybody uses Excel, so it's fairly common and easy to use. Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions, please contact me through the website. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. And if you've got any suggestions how to improve this, I'm more than happy to hear those too. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.